everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today, it's the June TBR. I'll first start off by saying, yes, I did pass the Naruto TBR challenge last month. Thank goodness, pew 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 pew, because I wasn't confident and I actually almost DNF'd a book. But everything is fine. I am the champion for now. So with that being said, let's just get into it. So my Goodreads goal so far, or for the year, is 150 books. And as of right now, I've read 75. So I'm doing a pretty good job. And guess what? In the month of June, I read 20 books. Cue the bells. Very excited about that. Very, very happy. So I read 13 mangas. I listened to 3 audiobooks. I read 1 nonfiction, 1 romance, and then I read 2 thrillers. And, you know, the vast majority of these are like 3 stars. Not terrible, not that great. I had like 1 5-star, a few 4 stars. You'll see. You'll see what's going down. But yes, here we go. June TBR. So one of the first books I read at the beginning of June, or finished in June, was You Had Me at Ola, and that was a romance novel. Now I think I started this actually in May, and this was a prompt for the TBR challenge / the Pop Sugar reading challenge, and obviously took me quite some time because I didn't finish until the beginning of June, but I rated it 3 stars. This is about Jasmine and Ashton. They are working on a show together. These 2 are well-known actors in the telenovela kind of a scene, I guess you could say. And Jasmine, she is a really great actor, but she really hates the fact that she's been embroiled in a lot of drama. She's in a lot of magazines. She just got broken up with by a singer or something like that. And she is determined moving forward that she will not be hooking up with anybody because she really does not want to end up in the tabloids again. And Ashton is a little bit older than Jasmine. I'm not sure what the ages are. They may have gone over that, but I can't remember. And he's a little bit older. He's been doing shows for a really long time. He's a well-known actor, but he's kind of lost his sparkle at this point. Like, he's not getting the lead roles anymore. He is dying. He's like being killed off very quickly, and he really is trying to look for something to make his career blow up again, because he has a secret, and that's a big part of the story, and he would really like to continue to be successful if he can. And basically this book is about them working together on the show where they're both the leads, but like Jasmine's the lead character. It's really about her life. And of course they're the leads. They're in a romantic relationship on the show. This is a romance novel. There's going to be some hooking up. And honestly, I really did like the book, but like I said, it took me a long time to read it. So while I would still recommend this, it's not one of my favorite romances that I've read. I believe that there's a second book, and I'm sure it's following different characters. So I definitely want to read the next one, whether it follows them or not. If it follows them still, I'd still read it. But you know, of the romance novels I've read, it's okay. So 3 stars for that one. The next book was an audiobook, and that was The Maidens. I requested that on NetGalley, and I gave it 3 stars. So this is about a group therapist. Her name is Marianne. She gets a call one night after a group session from her niece who's at university, and she's like, hey, my friend is missing, my roommate's missing, but there's been a murder on campus. I think it's my roommate. So she goes to the university to see her niece, and for some reason, even though this woman, from what I understand, she doesn't have any background in police work, she just starts trying to solve the mystery of The Maidens, because that has to do with the book. This is by the same author who wrote The Silent Patient. So I really like The Silent Patient, and if you've read it, you know that there's a twist on a twist, and you might not have seen the second twist coming, and I did not, and that's why I rated it very highly. But in general, I really liked The Silent Patient. The Maidens, though, I wasn't really a big fan of. I did enjoy the audiobook version. I think if I had read the physical copy, I might not have gone through it so quickly. I liked the narrator. The plot is okay. It's very interesting. I'll give you that. And the reason why I gave an additional star, because honestly, before I got to the end, I was probably just going to rate it 2 stars. Of course, we get a twist. I saw that coming. But then he puts a twist on the twist. That I did not see coming. So if you've read it, I think you know what I'm talking about. And I personally did not see that coming. I don't know about y'all. If you did, please tell me in the comments. I did not see that second twist coming. And that is what had me give it another star. I was sitting in my car. I definitely was like, I had a what moment, like out loud, not a scream, but definitely like a gasp of what is going on. I will say that a little convoluted, okay? Marianne's whole thing, and then this, to get her involved, where and why and who would think, you know what I mean? So, like I said, I was originally gonna just do 2 stars for it. I gave it another one. I still would recommend, and I would actually recommend listening to it on audiobook. It was fantastic. But if I had to choose between the 2, which I'm not comparing them to each other necessarily, but of the 2 books that this author has written, I prefer the first one, The Silent Patient, over this one. So if you want a thriller that has a twist at the end, this one's okay, but yeah, it was good. So next I read The Whispering Dead. Obviously had to pick it up because it's Darcy Coates, and I thought this cover was really, really nice. Definitely caught my attention. I bought another book by her, and it's The House Next Door. Same thing, bought it because of the author and because of the cover. I'm reading currently, I like it. But anyway, this is about a woman named Kira. She wakes up in the middle of nowhere, but not necessarily like the middle of nowhere, just the middle of nowhere to her, because she has no recollection of who she is, where she's from, but she wakes up in the middle of the woods, clearly has been abused in some way, and she can tell that she's being hunted through the woods. She ends up in a town that she is not familiar with. No one knows her there, so she really has no clue where or who she is. And she ends up kind of like staying here, hiding from whoever's hunting her, but also kind of getting to know the locals until she can hopefully get her memory back. But of course, it can't just be, I'm hunted. She can see ghosts. And luckily, she's living right now in a cemetery. There's a parish, and there's an additional like groundskeeper house where she gets to stay. So of course, she can see ghosts on top of all of this. And I rated this book 3 stars, not in a bad way. I kind of screwed myself over because I did not realize that this is the first book in a series. I assumed that this was going to be a standalone book. Shouldn't have done that. So I assumed that I would have found out what's going on with the hunted situation, but okay, I don't want to give anything away, but I thought that we were going to wrap everything up in this book, and you don't, because it's the first book in a series. But I genuinely liked it. I love the other people in the town that she becomes friends with. A lot of the people in this town, I feel like as the series will go, they're interesting characters that we're going to learn more about. And just generally, it was a good book. The mystery was good. Didn't see it coming. Definitely didn't see the ending coming of what really was going on. And generally really good. Again, like, so this is my 3rd Darcy Coates book, and I'm still enjoying what I'm reading. I really, really like her writing, and I will continue with the series as it comes out because I'm enjoying it. I think the book I'm reading now, The House Next Door, is a standalone. I should probably check that so I don't end up in the same predicament. But overall, good book. I'd recommend. Next up is going to be Arsenic and Adobo. I gave this 4 stars. This was a great small town cozy mystery book, in my opinion. Definitely would recommend. We're following Lila. She is back home from the city after a breakup, and she's working in her aunt's restaurant with her grandma, and they make traditional Filipino food. And she is someone who loves to bake. That's really her thing. She's more on the baking side of things, but she obviously generally likes to cook. And even though she is technically enjoying herself, she's more of a, let me be creative, let me spice it up, let me do like fusions. And she doesn't always get to flex her creative muscle in the environment that she's in. But it's okay. She's doing what she's got to do. Her best friend works beside her in a cafe. I don't remember what her best friend's name was, but I really, really liked her. And they have these visions or hopes of working together, more so the friend than her. But with all of that being said, there's a food critic in this community who's a douchebag, and he happens to be her ex-boyfriend. Surprise! Surprise, motherfucker. So he's a douchebag. He's awful to every single person who runs a restaurant in this community. And lo and behold, he dies in hers. And he's really been like a total asshole to her and her family. So he dies there. And that's not really giving anything away. That's kind of in the synopsis. But someone is clearly setting up her and her family. And we have to, well, she has to figure out who is doing that and why would you do that. In general, I really, really liked this book. I will say this, and if you've read it, I think you will agree. Her aunt was driving me crazy. Don't trust the police, okay? Why would you do that? Don't ever do that. Plead the fifth. It doesn't matter how innocent you are. Do not trust them, okay? And weirdly, the detective, did anybody else feel like he had a thing for her aunt? Maybe. I got this vibe. It was just a little too, tell her I said hi. How's your aunt doing? You don't take care of her. It was weird. I didn't really get that, but it was really good. Definitely want to continue with the series because I really love the characters. I love the family. We're obviously going to see what happens with the friendship and the relationships because, you know, it can be a little cozy murder without some love. And I'm really interested to see what happens with the love interest in this book. So yes, 4 stars, absolutely loved it and really recommend. Next up, I read The Power, and that was because I pulled a card, and it was a book that has won the Women's Prize for Fiction. I gave this 4 stars, and I listened to it on an audiobook. So I'll start off by saying I did not like the audiobook. I did not like all of the changing accents. I'm not a fan of like randomly Russian accents that are like, ugh. So we get a lot of accents in the book. So just know that if you don't like them, like I don't like them, where it's like just one person doing a bunch of different accents, you might not enjoy yourself. But in general, like I said, I rated this 4 stars. I found this to be a very thought-provoking book. So basically overnight, women, in the beginning it's mostly young girls, so teenagers and younger, discovered that they can like produce electricity from their body and control it. And then as time slowly goes by, all women realize that they have the ability to do this. And we see, I think this is a span of years, by the way. So we start to see how the world changes when women have this power that men do not have. And in places where women can't do X, Y, and Z, well, that's not going to happen anymore. You can't control us anymore. And I'm going to let you know who really has the power. And the biggest thing I took away from this book, and I'd love to know what anybody else thinks if you've read this, is that power corrupts all. Power always has the, there's always this possibility that it can corrupt you. It doesn't matter how good your intentions are. Everyone is corruptible. Maybe not every single person, but there might always be something that is enough for you to maybe step over a line that you said you'd never cross. And, you know, just so you know, going in this book, for a content warning, you know, there is some sexual assault. And at the time, like towards the end of this book, there is a war that breaks out, which, you know, I'm sure everyone would assume would happen in a time like this when someone has more power than others. And much like what happens now in times of war, who are the most vulnerable? Women and children. So the roles are reversed now. And that does not mean that the other the men, in this case, men are not going to be dealing with the same things that women and children deal with in times of war. So just know going into this that it does get very, very dark, which I assumed that it would, but I didn't think it would get that dark. But it makes sense that it would get that dark. So know that there is some gore, there is a lot of abuse, there is some sexual assault in it, and yeah, it's definitely a thought-provoking book. I did like the ending. I can't really explain the ending because there's this moment where it's as if so it's years in the future, and I assume that, like, I guess we got control over the electricity or something like that. But then the author of the book is talking to a man, and I just found that to be an interesting interaction between the two, and I found it kind of amusing. But yeah, I definitely like the book. I would recommend it, but like I said, content warning for some things in there. The second card I pulled, which was a book from your TBR that you meant to read last year but didn't. And if I remember correctly, I think that another part of the prompt was a book that you weren't totally like excited about finishing. I have to admit, it was The Warrior Moon, but I finished it. So congratulations to me. I did listen to this on audiobook, and I would recommend. It was good. I mean, as you can see, this is a very thick book. It is over 600 pages, and I don't know if I could have made it through this format. I really do think that the audiobook really helped me because, you know, sadly, I did kind of consider DNFing it. It is very long. Lots and lots of stuff is happening in the book. There's a war broken out. It's the final book in the series. This is the final standoff battle with humans versus, you know, demons, basically. And I really did not want to DNF, and I'm glad I didn't, because I'm very invested in finding out what happens with Shefali and Shizuka. And at first, when I finished it and I was writing my review on Goodreads, I didn't have a rating yet, because I was just kind of sitting with it because it was really long. And I know that there were times where I kind of zoned out because, again, lots of stuff is happening. We're preparing for war, then we go to war, and then we're in the war. Yes, it was like 12 hours a book, and it probably longer because I would zone out and then I'd have to restart the chapter. So I didn't want to totally give it a rating at first because I don't think I absorbed it. But when I sat down and thought about it, I really, really loved the ending. The ending, I think, is the perfect ending, which I think most of us, since we've been with the book, kind of assumed that was going to happen. But I really loved it because I think it is a good ending for Shefali and Shizuka without giving too much away. And another reason why I rated this 4 stars, and I don't even know if I even said that yet, I rated it 4 stars, had to do with her mom, Shefali's mom. So there's a moment at the end which I really, really liked, and I was like, oh, okay, all right, I like this. So, yes, I did really like this series, and I do want to go back and start the whole thing over eventually. I don't think the first book will ever lose like its top, you know, place for me. I love the first book so much. But I do want to go back and listen to this all over again and really take it in, because I know that I'm missing something. I know I'm missing things from the book that I zoned out, or there were a few times I fell asleep because I did listen to it at nighttime, and that's just never good. I fall asleep very easily. So yeah, it was good. I definitely enjoyed it. I would absolutely recommend going into the series. I thought it was great. The first 2 books are fantastic, but just know the end is pretty chunky. She's a thick mama, and you need to pay attention to it, but still very good. And the last manga that I've read before we get into those was The End of White Politics. I rated this 5 stars. So this was my only 5-star book of the month of June, and that's okay. This was fantastic. It's not very long, but I would absolutely recommend reading this. I really enjoyed reading this, and I think Maxwell did a fantastic job. I mean, here's the thing. So this was published and it came out, I'm not exactly sure like what month of last year it came out, but it came out before the election where Biden won. So essentially we get up to probably the summer of last year, and it was, reliving that again. Horrible year. And we didn't even get to the pandemic part of things. So actually, I think this had to have ended right before March. So we don't actually read about the pandemic and what happens to then tip the election. And I think we all could agree that the pandemic played a big part in how a lot of things happened last year with the election. So anyway, that was interesting. It was interesting to relive it. I think that Maxwell made fantastic points in this about where the Democratic Party is going. It actually gave me a little bit of hope too, because I feel like I'm 31 now, and I kind of feel like, I don't think that I'll see huge change in my lifetime, but I think that I got a little hope after reading this that, not to be pessimistic, but eventually a lot of these people who are making laws will be dead, sadly, but they're gonna die. And more progressive candidates are going to emerge, and they are going to be the ones who are making the laws and hopefully turning the country around, or at least in a direction where it's not like it is anymore. Do I think there's certain things that will end in my lifetime? Probably not. But at the end of it all, like, I do think that there might be some change. We may see more AOCs, Ilhan Omars in our time, and that's what I'm really looking forward to. But anyway, Maxwell worked on the Clinton campaign and the Obama campaign, and the thing I found interesting, she made a lot of great points about the mistakes that the Hillary Clinton campaign made. I thought that we weren't going to end up talking about the super predators comment, but we did. And, I think that she made a lot of good points that Hillary Clinton, Kamala Harris, women in this party are still experiencing sexism and then racism and sexism. So misogynoir for Kamala Harris, and made some really good points about, I don't know if I want to say it. I don't know. Okay, so I would definitely recommend reading this because I'm not sure I want to say it. I don't want to give too much away, but I also don't necessarily want certain kind of people in my comments. And if you read it, I'm sure you'll figure out what I'm talking about. But anyway, 5 stars. Loved the book. Would absolutely recommend. Fantastic. Alrighty, so now on to the manga. So I read, these are all not in order. I read volumes 1 through 5 of The Way of the House Husband. This was so much fun to read. This was a very lighthearted, very, very, very lighthearted manga. Basically, he's a house husband. He used to be in the Yakuza, and he no longer does that. He's not a gangsta. He's a house husband, and he's very happily married to a woman who is very clumsy, can't cook, and that's totally fine because they are the perfect match for each other. This was so cute. I love the cat. If you've read it, then I think you would agree the cat is hilarious. And it's just very sweet. It's the kind of book that really kind of broke up the month for me, and it just kept me wanting to pick up another volume. So would absolutely recommend The Way of the House Husband. Next, I read volumes 1 and 2 of Comey Can't Communicate. I talked about this and The Way of the House Husband in my manga haul, but this was something that a coworker suggested to me, and I definitely want to finish this series. It was so sweet. Comey is a high schooler. She just really can't communicate with people. She's very, very shy. She doesn't speak, but so many people find her to be the coolest, most popular girl in school. So it doesn't matter if she's quiet. They romanticize that, even though she literally just can't talk to them because she is so shy. It's not because she's just too cool to talk. No, she's just that scared. So this was another very, very cute manga that was very lighthearted. I would like to continue with it. I would recommend. Next up, volume 22 of Demon Slayer. One more volume to go. One more. I'm almost done. We're still fighting Muzan. That's it. Volume 5 of That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime. Still really enjoying this manga. I'm sure my husband is still gonna keep wanting me to watch the anime. I may give in, we'll see. I'm finally starting to watch things other than Criminal Minds because I have a real issue with watching anything new. I get too anxious about watching something where people die or anything happens. I just can't take newness, which is weird considering how many books I read, but when it comes to shows and movies, I can't do it. But still really liking the series. I want to continue with this because it's like things happen here. Okay, there's battles. There's some fantasy elements of this, but it's still super wholesome. I also cried at the end of this. It was very good, but love it. And then I read volumes 1 through 4 of Raw Hero. This is definitely an adult series. This is by the same creator of Prison School, so just know that there's lots of fan service, nudity, sexual jokes, all that good stuff. Fantastic. I want to get the 5th volume. It comes out in the month of July. I think it comes out on the 27th. Very, very, very entertaining. Basically, and I mentioned this in a few videos, but basically the main character, he's the oldest of 3 brothers. He's the one who needs to get a job. The day that he goes looking and he's determined to get one, he doesn't make that interview, but he gets offered to be essentially like a superhero. And he has to go undercover for the good guys, or the police. In this case, they happen to be the police, I guess. Go undercover with the bad guys, so the villains. But of course, the villains are really not that bad. They're really not that bad of people. And yeah, it's good. Honestly, I would love to know where we're going with this. I'm pretty sure I know how the 5th volume's gonna go. This girl in the 4th volume, fucking stuff up for us. But that's how it was in Prison School. There's always someone who is gonna be like the wrench thrown into the equation. You want certain people to be happy, and not going to happen so easily. But yes, Raw Hero, would absolutely recommend. All right, those are the 20 books of June. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you liked the video, please like the video. And if you like it, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Keep up to date with all these videos. And thank you for watching. So have a good day. Goodbye.